Hello, this is Bob Kaplan, and very happy to have this opportunity of sharing some of the most recent work that Dave Norton and I have been doing. This will be work that will be the organizing framework for the next Balanced Scorecard book, which focuses on linking strategy and operations. So there's a lot of material, a lot of new material here, and in the time that we have available here, I'll try to give you the overall perspective and some highlights of some of the aspects of it that I'm particularly excited about. So let's start out. If you turn to the second page, the slide handout, you'll get a sense where we're writing on the book. It's focused on the fifth strategy-focused organization process of how to make strategy a continual process. And by way of background, of course, the 5 principles of the strategy-focused organization was the topic of our second book. Our third book on strategy maps was these Roman numeral 2, how do you translate strategy to operational terms using the framework of a strategy map. And our fourth book, published 2 years ago, Alignment, was the third principle, align the organization to strategy, the business units and the shared service units, as well as a little bit of principle 4 in the final chapter of how do you align employees to the strategy. So now we're hitting this area of the fifth principle, which we really haven't gotten into much detail, I have to say, in our writings, and so it was time, the time had come. And you'll see that it involves some planning aspects of translating the strategy to specific plans and resources to implement the strategy. A very important part is linking strategy to operational terms, aligning a lot of process improvement activities to the strategy. And the main and the newest work is to be much more specific and explicit about the nature of the feedback loops, the various types of management meetings that organizations engage in to be sure they're staying on track with implementing their strategy, and also for testing and adapting the strategy as they learn from the various data that come back to them from various information systems. So as we turn to slide 3, this is the somewhat overwhelming and quite detailed, at this stage, preliminary diagram that really outlines the overall structure of the book of linking strategy and operations. We've had simpler views of this diagram in our previous work, but we found as we got into the details that we needed to expand this framework some. So just to orient you to this quite complex diagram, if you look at the upper left-hand part of this diagram, that's the strategic planning segment, where we, at the top, we have our annual meeting where we refresh, update our strategy, and translate that into a revised strategy map and balanced scorecard of strategic measures and targets that we want to achieve for each of the measures. And the resource planning part of this are the strategic initiatives, this portfolio of strategic initiatives that we see that are required to help us achieve the stretch targets on our balanced scorecard measures. And so the strategic planning process culminates in the box called planning and funding the strategy, and the new line item that we call StratX, or strategic expenditures. Now, I won't be talking about that in this talk because it is something that we have covered to some extent in previous work and in previous discussions. But the next step, and this is now the lower left-hand corner, is translating the strategy to operations. And here we'll see the opportunities of linking to process management and also being more explicit about where we get the operational budget. So the StratX talks about the strategic budget, but that still leaves unaccounted for the 90 or 95% of the spending that goes just to maintain our existing operations and to deliver our products and services to the existing customers. So the lower left-hand portion is where we translate the strategy into operational terms and also link operational improvements to the strategic necessities that have been defined in the strategy map and the balanced scorecard. Once we've completed the planning half of this diagram, which is the left-hand side, now we start to operate during the year, and we're executing, and now we get feedback from a variety of places. And as you'll see, there are articulated here 3 types of management meetings. The first are the operational review meetings, where we look at how well we're improving day-to-day operations, how well we're making things better, faster, and cheaper. We have the strategy review meetings, which we've talked about again in the past, but we are much more explicit on here about how they ought to be conducted and the agenda for those meetings. And then the third, in the upper right-hand corner, we call the strategy testing and adapting meetings, and that's typically an annual meeting where the leadership team comes together, it reviews how well the strategy has worked during the previous year, and it also looks at a lot of external information to refresh the external environment and the competitive information, and based on that, to make judgments about how to adjust the strategy and for the next year.